Welcome to Adventure Trek. Today we're heading up into Victoria's famous Golden Triangle on the trail of the greatest gold nugget ever discovered, the Welcome Stranger. What you see behind me here is the Rip. This is the entrance into Port Phillip Bay to Melbourne and the riches of the Golden Triangle. So all those diggers and all those prospectors came from all over the world through this tiny little stretch of water, just 300 metres of navigable water there with dangerous reefs on either side, all going to seek their fortune. In the mid-19th century, the population of the colony of Victoria was a mere 77,000. When gold was discovered up in the Ballarat and Bendigo area, within a few years that population swelled to over 500,000 people and made this the richest colony on the face of the earth. In the mid-19th century, there were no modern navigation aids. All the big square rig sailing ships had to come from the east, round from New South Wales, into the teeth of the Roaring Forties, or from the west with the Roaring Forties. And at the end of their journey was this dangerous narrow rip, and many of them were wrecked right here. The diggers never made it to the goldfields. Okay, so we've left the entrance to Port Phillip Bay down at the Rip, where all those tens of thousands of diggers came into Victoria seeking their fortune, and we're on our way up to Ballarat in the heart of the Golden Triangle. Before we do any fossicking for gold in the state of Victoria, we need a miner's right. To meet the expense of securing order and to restrain unauthorised mining on Crown land, a local Act of January 1852 imposed on all diggers a licence fee of 30 shillings per month, the penalty for mining without a licence being £6 for the first offence and afterwards imprisonment for terms up to 6 months. Okay, I've got my miner's right. This allows me to fossick for gold in the state of Victoria. And it was this government regulation which caused a little bit of trouble way back in 1854. It was here on Sunday the 3rd of December 1854 that the only armed insurrection on Australian soil against the Crown took place, and that was Eureka Stockade. But that's a story for another time. Okay, we've got our miners right back there in town, and we're in the goldfields proper now. We're going to spend a couple of days in here fossicking around some old timers workings here and a bit of country that's around those workings. And we're going to do it the 21st century way. Of course, the old timers didn't have all the advantages we've got with electronic prospecting. They had to use their eyes and be able to read country, and everything went through the tin dish, and that was the way that they found gold. Today, we've got a lot of indicators, and one of that is where they've worked, but we also spread out around the old workings and see if we can find some new spots where there's gold. So we're going to have a few hours in here and see if we can pull some little nuggets out of the place that the old timers missed. Nice sweet signal. This spot here actually, it's been worked to that gully, to that direction has been worked, and there's been gold come off the hillside in that direction, so there's a good chance that there's gold down through here too. So this might be a good little recovery here. I've got the ATX on, I've got the sensitivity right up on 12 at the moment. You can hear it's a pretty good signal. That's not a hot rock or hot ground by the sound of that. It's repeatable. So we'll have a crack at this one. Okay, as you can see the target's out of the hole. Sounds pretty good. Okay, look at that, got a beautiful little nugget there. Nice bit of gold that. Might be a couple of, well, it's well over a gram. Okay, I'll give it a quick bush clean and we'll see what it looks like. Okay, so now we're up in the Golden Triangle. We've made that journey up from the heads at Port Phillip Bay. We're into an area that's been worked continuously almost since 1851. There's some modern scrapings in here. We've had some nice little pieces come out this morning, but we've just got this lovely piece here. We'll call it 2 grams, we haven't weighed it yet. It's not a specimen like some of the others we've got here. It's a beautiful piece of Ballarat gold. Now look at the colour of that thing. Beautiful. That's a lovely nugget. And that, as you heard, that was a good signal from the top. That came out of the bottom of the hole we got there, and that was it was a solid 8 inches. It was the length of the pro pointer, so we got that 2 grams at 8 inches. And that includes the leaf litter and the other stuff that was there. That's a beauty. Well, this is what I love about prospecting. I'm not the first person here. The old timers worked all this area in the 1850s, and adjacent to their workings there's always a campsite. I've come onto this little rise here and I've found their campsite. How do I know that? There's evidence of little fireplaces, and I've just dug a beautiful signal here, and I've got a 925 silver coin. It looks like an old threepence that the old timers have dropped. Very valuable coin back in the 1850s. I haven't checked the date on it or got it out of the ground. There it is there. You can see the silver in the ground. So I'll give it a clean and we'll have a look at the date. Well, I've just cleaned this coin. It's a beautiful old Queen Victoria Jubilee head threepence, an English threepence, dated 1891. I love finding these old silver coins in the goldfields. Well, I've just been rewarded with another little piece of gold, maybe 2 grams or just under. I'm working in a little high area between some older timers' workings in this direction and that direction, so it's kind of ground in the centre that they possibly didn't think was worth working, but with a modern metal detector obviously you can pick these targets out, so that's a nice little nugget actually. Okay, we're on our way up to Denali and Malagal where the Welcome Stranger was found, but on the way we've stopped here in Maryborough in the central goldfields. And the reason we've stopped here is this beautiful piece of Victorian architecture behind us, the Maryborough Railway Station. It was completed in 1890, and structures like this, which are dotted all over the goldfields in Victoria, give you an idea of the amount of money and the wealth that the gold produced for the colony of Victoria. And now we've got this wonderful legacy, this beautiful Victorian building behind us. This is the tiny Victorian village of Malagal in the goldfields. In 1869 it was to become world famous because it was here that the greatest gold nugget ever unearthed was found. Well, we had a bit of luck down there in the goldfields with the metal detectors, a couple of little nuggets. But what we found there pales to insignificance compared to what was found here on this very spot in 1869 by Richard Oates and John Deason, 2 prospectors who have been working this gully for quite a few months. And here they uncovered the greatest gold nugget ever discovered, the Welcome Stranger. The Welcome Stranger assayed to 2,268 ounces of gold, and it was found just a few inches under the surface right here. Story goes that some fellow tried to pitch his tent here a few days earlier, couldn't get the peg into the ground because there was a rock there, and he moved on. Well, the rock was the Welcome Stranger. What we're going to do now is go down the gully, down this Black Dog lead, and we'll recreate the events of that morning back in February 1869. This ground had been well worked by the time they came through the area, and there had actually been a 130-ounce nugget found not far from where the Welcome Stranger was eventually found. It's Friday the 5th of February 1869. Deason and Oates are camped just down the bottom of the gully in a hut. About 200 feet behind the hut, John Deason's working the ground at 9 AM in the morning, and he strikes a rock with his pick. But it's not a rock, it's the Welcome Stranger nugget. So by the time Deason and Oates have had this nugget out of the ground, it's Friday afternoon and the bank in Denali is closed. So what they do next is they take it back to the farmhouse, bury it under the hearth and cook it in the fire to break the quartz away from it. And on Monday morning, with a group of friends, they head into Denali to get it weighed in the bank. Monday morning, Deason and Oates load the Welcome Stranger onto a cart and take it into the bank in Denali. The trouble is that the nugget's so large, the bank hasn't got a set of scales that can weigh it. So the next move is they take it down to the local blacksmith, who cuts it up and they weigh the individual pieces. Well, it so happens that the anvil that the Welcome Stranger was cut up on still exists, and we'll go and have a look at that now. It's in Denali in the main street. Here's an old shack that dates from the time of the gold rush. It's in pretty poor repair now, but this is typical of a miner's hut of the period. And it would have been a little hut like this that Deason and Oates were camped in over on Black Dog Lead, the day they found the welcome stranger. The wealth and prosperity of modern Australia was born in the gold rushes of the 19th century. Australia's population changed dramatically as a result of the rushes. In 1851, the Australian population was 437,000, of which 77,000, or just 18%, were Victorians. A decade later, the Australian population had grown to 1.1 million, and the Victorian population had increased to 538,000, just under 47% of the Australian total, and a 7-fold increase for the period. Let's hope there's another welcome stranger waiting out there for some lucky prospector to find. Bye for now.